In this video, I'm going to talk about for loops. Now, you've used blocks that repeat before. You've used a forever block, a repeat block, a repeat until block, and I think you know what those blocks do. And today I'm going to talk about a for loop. This is really just another block that repeats. So how does a for loop work? Well, let's compare it to a repeat block, and you already know how this works. So let's say I want to draw a triangle. I'll put the pen down and then repeat 3 times, move 100 steps, turn 120 degrees, and lift the pen up. But of course, you know this is going to draw a triangle. Hey, there's my triangle. How would I do the same thing using a for loop? Well, I put the pen down. Now this for loop says, this is going to seem a little weird, make a variable named I. Now this is just the name of a variable. I could call this anything I want. I could rename it pizza if I wanted to, for example. And it says begin pizza as at 1 and keep counting until pizza equals 3. In other words, repeat 3 times, move 100 steps, turn 120 degrees. And you'll see this also draws a triangle. And I know you're thinking, well, what's the point of this? Why would I ever use a for loop instead of a repeat loop? Well, I'll show you in just a moment. Let's say I wanted to make a sprite count from 1 to 5. Here's how I would do it using a repeat block. First, I'd have to make a variable, and I'm calling it count. And then I'm setting count to 1 to initialize it. And then I'm repeating 5 times. I'm going to say count, and then I'm going to change count by 1. And of course, if I run this, you can see that the sprite says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, to do the same thing with a for loop is a whole lot easier. The for loop makes a variable for you, right, automatically, begins it at whatever this number is, and it keeps going up until this number, and then it just says the value. And if I run this, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the time to use a for loop is when you want a variable that starts from whatever number that you put here and ends at whatever number you put here. For loops are going to be really handy, and we're going to practice them quite a bit. I'm going to go over one more example of using a for loop. In this example, I'm going to ask the user what their name is, and then I want to say their name one letter at a time. So here already I've asked them their name, I set name to their answer, and then I'm going to make my for loop, and the default variable name here is I, and I'll just leave it like that. I'm going to make my for loop count from 1 up to the length of whatever their name is. Now I know we haven't used this variable too often, so I want to go to length of name. So if their name is Haas, for example, the length of Haas would be 4. It's 4 letters long. And inside, I'm just going to say their name. So again, I'm going to say their name one letter at a time. So I'm going to say letter, oh, got to put that in the right place, letter I of their name for 1 second. Now I'll run this and I think you'll see that it'll work beautifully. So what is your name? I'll enter Haas. And in fact, it says H-A-A-S. Let me just be clear about what's going on here in this for loop. A for loop makes a variable. In this case, the name of the variable is I. It begins I with this value right here. So in this case, I starts at 1, but I could type in any number that I want here, and it keeps going until it gets up to whatever this value is. In this case, it was 4 because the length of Haas was 4, and then it does whatever is inside the loop. So again, a for loop really makes a variable. It starts the variable at this number, and then it repeats whatever's inside the loop, and then it adds 1 to that variable, just to be clear. So I is actually increasing after each time through the for loop. I equals 1, it does whatever's in the for loop. I equals 2, it does whatever's in the for loop. I equals 3, it does whatever's in the for loop. It keeps going up until it gets to this value right here. So hopefully that makes sense, and you're going to play around with for loops a little bit. It's going to be great.